Today, I want to talk about when a deal goes south because I've been seeing some people where this is happening now with interest rates rising. People bought something maybe a couple of years ago, low interest rates. Now maybe they're having to refi because the loan is coming due or other reasons, or maybe they need to do some improvements and they needed more money from it, couldn't get it from investors, whatever the reason is. The deal is not going well, we need more money, okay? So I want to go through some of the options that exist and some of the things that if you're putting a deal together, you should probably have in your operating agreement in order to account for these situations, because you always want to account for having an exit. Basically, you want an exit and you want to plan for when things go bad. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? We're just going to go through a couple options and what you can do. The first option is a cash call, okay? So this is where you go back to all the partners, the investors, and you say, we need X dollars, and everyone needs to contribute their pro rata share. So in other words, if you're a 1% owner, you would have to put in 1% of the cash needed from all the partners in order to remain a partner. So that's cash calls. I would be careful with cash calls, and for this, you should definitely talk to your attorney ahead of time, because this gets more in the legal side. I'm not an attorney. Generally speaking, in an LLC, a limited liability company, if you have in your agreement that certain partners or all the partners are obligated to contribute money at a certain period, or when certain things happen, then that may pierce the corporate veil, because you're essentially saying in your operating agreement that not only could creditors come after just the assets of the LLC, but because someone is having to contribute for whatever reason, then now that opens up some personal liability. Again, talk to your attorney about that, but I would be careful about how you put this in the operating agreement. Usually I'll see it where no additional capital is required from the partners. However, if they choose to contribute, then this is how it would work. So you kind of have to be careful on the wording. The second way that you can deal with when a deal goes south is member loans. This will actually specify in the agreement if the partnership needs additional money, then partners, maybe it's just the manager, maybe it's certain partners, maybe it's any partner, will have an opportunity to loan the company money at a stated interest rate. So it will usually say a specific rate already, whether it says the actual rate, like 8%, or maybe the rate goes up and down with the actual interest rates. You can kind of write it however you want, but essentially you're saying in the agreement that partners already have this right. That way, when the company needs money, one, the members get to make an additional investment, get a return on that investment, the partnership gets the money it needs, and you're not forcing all the partners or asking all the partners to put in additional money that may not get a return, like under the cash call scenario. So this is a really popular way to deal with it. The next couple of ways I'm going to talk about is actually a combination of the first two. So what I'll call this third way would be a cash call with dilution. So this would be in the operating agreement, you're not obligated to contribute cash, but when the partnership asks and say, we do need cash, partners can choose to, and some will decide not to put in money. Then what would happen a lot of times is the partners that do not contribute would potentially be diluted. How this would work is, let's say that you had a partnership that was originally capitalized with $1 million. And let's say you had a partner of this $1 million, we'll call him partner number one. They contributed $100,000. So an easy 10% of the deal. And now let's say the deal has gone south and we need another $1 million. So partner number one would have been obligated, if they were contributing in the same ratio, they would put in another $100. But partner number one says, no, I don't want any more risk. I don't have the cash, whatever the reason is, they decide not to contribute. So in order to come up with the full $1 million, because they're not putting in their share, someone else is putting in money. Whether it's a new partner or it's an existing partner that was part of that original capital stack, puts in an additional amount, doesn't matter. Now the math changes. So originally this partner owned 10% of the deal, but now, because we would have $2 million total capital. So we go plus $1 million more in capital contributions. So now that is $2 million that this partnership was capitalized with. And this partner number one, only put in $100,000. So that is 5% of the deal now. So going forward, instead of having 10%, this partner only has 5% of the deal. So that's how dilution works. The fourth option is another variation of cash call with dilution. This would be dilution with a penalty. And essentially what this means is you could have some sort of formula saying, okay, if you don't contribute cash, not only will you get diluted, but we will actually penalize you for not contributing. A dilution with a penalty might be that you get reduced by a factor of 1.2. So in other words, instead of getting diluted 1-for-1, you'd actually get penalized. The last way would be essentially another variation of number 1 and 2, or really a combination. And this would be a cash call member loan. This one would essentially be when you have a cash call for the partnership and someone decides not to contribute. Instead, the member that did not contribute, you could give the option for the other partners to put in the money and it would be treated as a loan. There would be a stated interest rate in the operating agreement where it's treated as basically, I owe the partner that contributed for me. So at some point, I'm probably getting my distributions reduced by whatever that interest is. So I'm getting less money because it's treated as a loan. And that money, basically the distributions that are not going to me, would go to this other partner for making the loan. So that's the last popular way that this can be dealt with. I highly suggest that you have something in the operating agreement ahead of time, because I have seen when the operating agreement does not address this. And if you have a lot of partners, you're essentially just all negotiating with each other. You all have different motivations, different life scenarios, but you want to get something in writing ahead of time so that you don't get into any legal type issues and that you make sure that you can make the best decisions for the business going forward.